We had started your 10th lesson, that is your loans, investments, guarantee, and securities part. Yes, we had started the 10th lesson. What exactly is 10th lesson? I told you, whenever a company wants to give a loan, whenever a company wants to invest, whenever a company wants to give guarantee or security to an outsider, this particular lesson comes into picture. Especially very important section, that is section 186. Very important. So, what exactly did we saw? Under section 186, any company can give loan, guarantee, security, or it can invest basically in any other company. Absolutely no problem. However, there is a procedure. What was the procedure? In short, there were three approvals which were required. What were the approvals? So, whenever a company wants to make guilds, yeah, three approvals are required. What three? Board resolution. Board resolution under any case is mandatory. Whenever you want to give money, if money goes out from your account, board resolution is mandatory. Yes. So, whenever you want to invest money in any other company or give loan, give guarantee, board resolution first has to be taken. When I say board resolution, board should first agree to that particular job. After that, special resolution and PFI. What was PFI? Public financial institution. Sir, do we require public financial institutions approval every time? No. These two depend upon case to case basis. So, PFI, let us come in the later part of the class. First one was board resolution and special resolution. Sir, when do we need board resolution? When do we need special resolution? Board resolution, you do anything is mandatory. No doubt on that. When do we need special resolution? You need special resolution, that is, you need the shareholders' approval if your guilds are exceeding this limit. What was the limit? 60% of paid up share capital plus free reserve plus security premium, or 100% of free reserve plus securities premium, whichever is higher. Whichever is higher amongst these two, board can approve guilds up to this extent. It can give loan, guarantee, investment, security up to this extent. They need not ask the shareholders. The moment you are exceeding these limits, then you have to take the prior approval of shareholders. So, whenever that guilds we are taking, the guilds, that is, that four things, it should always be existing plus the previous one. If you have already given it to someone else, if there is already a loan or an investment which the company has already made, you should take that plus new. If it is coming within the limit, board resolution is sufficient. If old plus new is exceeding the limits, we have to take a special resolution. That is where we had stopped. Yes, if you remember, we had stopped here. We also saw one practical scenario, this one. I hope all of you understood this. Any doubts so far? Done. Now, we had done 3 points. Fourth point. Okay, sir, whenever we are talking about guilds, whenever company wants to do guilds, Yes, the next point, fourth one. If company intends to make or provide gilts, it has to mandatory pass a board resolution. Did we see this? So whenever a company wants to give gilts, then it has to mandatorily pass a board resolution. Huh. Sir, this point we have already seen. Okay, sir, we have already seen this point. Okay, write down. Board resolution should be passed, yes. But what should be the board resolution? The board resolution should be passed with a unanimous approval. Sir, what do you mean by unanimous approval? All the directors present in the meeting, 100% voting, 100% consent should be there. Everyone present in the meeting, unanimous approval of board of directors present in meeting. Yeah, not even one person should say, I am not interested, I will not vote. Forget about voting against. Everyone should participate. No abstain from voting. No tie is not there. You have to vote and everyone should agree to it. So board resolution is mandatory, and for doing that you have to mandatorily take a unanimous approval. Okay, sir. Now we have seen there are two types of approval which was required. Okay, now the fifth approval, what? Additional approval. Sir, additional approval of whom? Additional approval of PFI. What is PFI? Public financial institution. Public financial institution. What does the law say? If company has taken any term loan, so if the company has taken any term loan and such loan subsist. Sir, you wrote something. What is this? Subsist meaning exist. Now what do you mean by this? You have to take a PFI approval. PFI, public financial institution, basically banks. You have to take a bank's approval also before you giving loan to someone. When? If the company only has taken loan and that loan is still outstanding. Sir, no, we did not understand. Listen carefully. We are talking from XYZ company's perspective. XYZ company had taken a loan from a financial institution, say some bank. Yeah? And the company has not yet repaid the loan. Now, XYZ is only planning to give a loan to another company called ABC. In such case where you have taken a loan from a financial institution and you have not yet repaid, and when that is still going on, it is still outstanding, you are planning to give a loan to another person. In such cases, you have to take this financial institution's approval. Yes? Okay. So the law says you have to take a financial institution's approval. However, there is an exemption. When I say exemption, what do you mean? The law say in few cases the approval is not required, even though that the loan is there. Approval is not required when, if these two conditions are satisfied. What is that? First one, loan proposed, okay, take it as proposed loan. proposed loan the proposed loan is within the limits and no prior default. Meaning what? Assume every month you have to pay interest. Assume you have not defaulted in making that interest to the financial institution. Say for example you have taken two loans and the date of maturity has arrived. You should not have defaulted. You should have paid payment every time. If no default and whatever is the loan you are planning to give is within the limit, which limit? That 60%, 100% limit. Yes. So if these two conditions are satisfied, whenever the money is to be paid, you have paid it on time to the public financial institution, and whatever is the proposed loan, now whatever you are proposing is within the limits. What is that limit? That 60% and the 100%, whichever is higher. If it is within that limit and you have not defaulted any time, then PFI approval not required. So in short, what are the three approvals required? First one, board resolution. Board resolution alone is sufficient if at all the money you are planning to borrow is within the limits. Sir, what if I want to borrow more? Then you have to go and ask for special resolution. Sir, what if I have taken loan from someone and now I am planning to give it to someone else? Then I'll ask you two questions. What? Is the loan what you are proposing to give, is it within the limits? If the answer is yes, then have you made any default so far? If the answer is no, then PFI approval not required. Sir, what if the loan is exceeding the limit? Then PFI approval required. Sir, what if I have made any default in the previous any time whenever the loan had to be paid? If you have made any such default, then no. Again, PFI approval is required. Without taking PFI, you cannot give a loan. Short, understood or not? So the company shall disclose about such guilds in the financial statements. So whatever your financial statements are, in your financial statements, you have to make an entry that yes, in this year we have given so much of guarantee, investment, loan, security to so and so company. Who are the people? What is the amount? All that should be made an entry in the financial statements. rate of interest of such loan shall not be given at a rate of interest not lower than prevailing yield of 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year government security closest to tenor, TENOR, basically tenure of the loan. Now, what do you mean by this? Listen, assume if government requires money anytime, yeah, if the government requires money anytime, it borrows money from people, from financial institutions, from companies by issuing something called as bonds or also called as government securities. Just like how the company issues debentures, whenever government requires fund, what it will do, it will issue securities to people or companies or any person, and it will raise money. In return, they will get good interest. Sir, why will people go and invest in government security? Because of safety. Any day investing in government is better than investing in any private entity. Now, assume the government is issuing a 1 year bond, meaning what? They are issuing in the year 2019, you will get your money in the year 2020. So 1 year bond. Okay, how much should I invest? You have to invest say 1 lakh rupees. How much will I get back? Assume you will get back 1 lakh 10,000 rupees. Basically say 10% interest per annum. Now, what does this point say? Whenever you are issuing a loan, you are giving a guarantee, or you are making any money contribution to an outsider, you are giving a loan, then whenever you are giving a loan, then your rate of interest, meaning what? Now, a company is giving a loan to an outsider, say for example, a company. Now, what does the law say? This interest should not be less than 10% interest per annum. Why? Now, this has to be, say for example, at least 11% of interest. Why, sir? Now, imagine if at all the company so whenever you are giving any particular instrument or a security, your rate of interest should not be should not be less than whatever is being issued by the government. If government is issuing any security, your interest should not be less than that, because of the government always sets that factor, because you should always be more than what the government is doing, or else it will always involves a risk. So what does the law say? I will set something called as minimum. If you are giving say 1 year, when compare it to my 1 year security. If you are giving 3 year loan, compare to my 3 year security. So whatever it is, basically whenever I am giving security and I am raising money from public or any particular person, your interest should not be lower than that, says the government. Next, you are not supposed to make any loan, guarantee, security, or investment if at all you have made any default in repayment of principal or interest of deposits, whatever you have accepted. 73, 76, that section. If at all you have made any default there, then no, you cannot give any loan to an outsider. So, whatever are the loans, guarantees you have given, may take your book, write down all the details, make an entry in the register of loans and investments. In that, write to whom you have given, what rate of interest you have given, every possible thing, his details, everything should be written in your register. So, maintain a register in form MBP2. Write down, I'll explain. Yep, huh. So listen. So what is this new law? The law says there is a company called XYZ. Yes. Now XYZ is investing in a company called ABC. Now ABC will be called as a subsidiary company. Yes. Now ABC company will invest in, say, DEF company. Again it will become subsidiary. This will invest in G. This will invest in, say, H. This will invest in, say, M. This will invest in, say, S. This list keeps on going. Sir, why will people do this, sir? Indirectly, people were doing it to make sure that the funds are being money laundering. What was happening? See, now if I have to find out who is the owner of yes, it would have been M. For M, H. For H, G. If I go on, the list keeps on going. It will be so difficult to actually find out who is the owner. Some person, Mr. VM. It is very difficult to find out. He is controlling all these companies. So, to avoid money laundering funds were being placed like this. People never used to know whose fund is what. People used to take disadvantage of the corporate system. So, that is when the government introduced this 186 subsection 1. What does this say? If this is a XYZ company, XYZ company is investing in ABC company. Yes, now this will become subsidiary. This will invest in another subsidiary called DEF. Now, DEF wanted to invest in one more company called, say, MNO. The law said no. The maximum layers of investment companies, the maximum layer of subsidiaries you can have. So, here when I say layer means subsidiary. The maximum layers of subsidiary can be not more than 2. The maximum layers you can have is A, B, C, D, E, F, not more than that. However, if at all XYZ company is holding one company called ABC company, yeah, and assume ABC is a foreign company. And in that country, wherever I am investing, there are no such laws which restrict me from investing in these layers. If at all there are no laws in that foreign country, then this is valid. I repeat, I am investing in a foreign company, not Indian, foreign company, and their laws permit me to do. No problem there. There is no bar there. If they permit me to do, then I can do. Absolutely no problem. Yes, the second one, the second exception, if it is XYZ holding ABC, if this layer is going on from one by one, if it is to satisfy some condition of an act or statute, if it is to satisfy any act or statute in India, then also it is valid. These are the only two exceptions. If these two, without these two exceptions, this is the maximum you can do. Understood this? Now see what you have written. A company shall not invest in more than 2 layers of investment company. This provision shall not affect a company from acquiring any other company outside India and having such subsidiary company for meeting requirements under any law. So it can be any of these two purposes. If you are planning to meet any requirement of any law, that is the reason you are holding it, or you're holding a company which is outside India and their laws do not restrict you. If that is the case, you can have more than 2 layers of subsidiaries of investment company. Now, question for you guys. There is a company called XYZ. They are investing in company D. There are one more investing in company E. Now, is this valid? This is the holding company. They are investing in company D, company E. Is this valid or not? Quick. Yes, valid, obviously, okay. Now tell me. They want to invest in one more company, same XYZ company. They're investing in company G. The same XYZ company, they want to invest in company H. Same XYZ company, they want to invest in company I. Is this valid? Guys, is this valid? Sure, huh? Think and answer. No, sir. Sulochana, everyone says no, sir. If what we cannot do directly, we cannot do indirectly. How, Thomas? Somewhere we discussed? Huh. Now, listen carefully. This is absolutely valid. No problem at all. Why? Guys, here in every place XYZ name is only written, no? They are not doing any money laundering. Every place directly XYZ name is written. First logic. Second logic. What does the law say? You cannot do more than 2 layers. This is all first layer only. Vertical is restricted. Horizontal is fine. This is horizontal, huh? See, ideally you can go to any extent in this way, but not this way. Now, for example, XYZ is holding so many companies. Now, E is again investing in company X. Is this valid? In spite of having so many subsidiaries, again E, one of the subsidiaries of XYZ, E is investing in X company. Now, is this valid? Okay, most of you say yes and no. Huh. So, this is valid. Now, if company X is again investing in company, say somewhere C, now this will be not valid. So, vertical, the maximum you can do is 2. Horizontal, there is no limit. All of you understood this logic? In this way, you cannot invest in more than 2 layers. In this way, you can go to any extent. In this way, only 2. Pranita, what's the difference? In the horizontal way, XYZ name is only written as shareholder in all their books. How will you do money laundering? Directly the owner's name is only written. In vertical, what happens? In vertical, what happens? In E, say for example, there is say company A. Company A is investing in company B, C, D. If this list is going on, now the actual money is here. It is being diluted till F. If I see F, who is the shareholder? It says E. In E, who is the shareholder? D. D, who is the shareholder? C. B. A is the ultimate shareholder. Are you getting the point? So, to avoid this money laundering is basically you are trying to play with funds. Terrorism and all happens like this only. Yeah, now say for example, A is ISIS. Yeah, B is some another terrorism oriented company. Yeah, now they opened a C. C is a construction company. From C, the money went to D. D was a normal some other company. Yeah. E is say some investment company. F some investment company. What is happening? The funds are being diverted. Terrorist activities became legitimate here. Are you getting the point? Yes, awesome. All of you understood? Any doubts? Okay. That was your section 186, important one. Next one. Section 187. Guys, very basic question. What we started with company law, that question I'll again ask you. What are the characteristics of a company? What are the characteristics of a company? Very simple question. What are the characteristics of a company? What are the characteristics? Corporate personality, limited liability, separate legal entity. Okay, awesome. Stop there. What do you mean by that corporate personality and separate legal entity? What do you mean by that? Sir, shareholders are different and the company is different. Okay, I got that. And company and the owners are different. Okay. And the company's properties are the shareholders' property, is it? No. Then how will the company purchase the property? Will it purchase it in its own name, or will it purchase in the shareholder's name? Can the company enter into contracts in its own name? Oh, is it possible? Own name is possible. Where? Till now no section said, no? Which section said? That section is section 187. Investments of a company to be held in company's own name. What do you mean by this, sir? If at all the company wants to purchase any property, if the company wants to purchase any share, if the company wants to purchase any security, any asset, it has to purchase in its own name, not in any other person's name. So, the first thing, whatever we studied, from whatever we started, the concept of separate legal entity, corporate personality, company has its own seal and its own name. Its assets and liabilities are separate and distinct from those of its members. Awesome, Aditya. So, your assets are your assets. You have to hold your assets in your own name. Meaning what? You cannot appoint someone else and you cannot tell him to hold assets on your behalf. Your assets should be in your own name. Yes, simple. Does it make sense? It's not any, a jargon. Now listen carefully. Guys, what do you mean by subsidiary company? Sir, one company investing in majority of the other company. Sir, H company investing majority of the stake in another company. This company will called as subsidiary company. Okay. What do you mean by wholly owned subsidiary, guys? What is the difference between subsidiary and wholly owned subsidiary? 100%. Sir, here 51% or more, if it is held, it will be called as holding or subsidiary. If there is one company which is holding 100%, then this will be called as wholly owned subsidiary. All of you agreed? Yes, all of you. I am asking you a doubt, a very tricky one. Yes. This you guys understood? Now, tell me one thing. The law says that if at all it is a private company, if you are a private company, what is the minimum number of shareholders? Two. Okay. Now, there is a company called XYZ. XYZ Private Limited. There is a company called ABC. ABC company wants to make XYZ Private Limited as its wholly owned subsidiary. I repeat, ABC company wants to make XYZ Private Limited as its wholly owned subsidiary. So it wanted to invest 100% of equity in XYZ Private Limited. Now they are stuck. What? Sir, till now we did not realize this situation at all. If it is wholly owned subsidiary, only one shareholder. In a private company, there should be two shareholders. Now one is ABC. What about other? If it is to be called a private company, there should be at least two shareholders. No. Now what to do? How many of you didn't understand the question? All of you understood. Okay. Now, what to do? Is it valid? Okay, Sulochana, very simple. A private company should have minimum two shareholders. What do you mean by wholly owned subsidiary? One company investing in 100% of shares of another company. So ABC company, assume XYZ Limited had 10,000 shares. The entire 10,000 shares is taken by ABC Limited. So XYZ Private Limited becomes a wholly owned subsidiary of ABC. This you all know. Now my question is, if that is the case, how is it going to be called a private company? There is only one shareholder. What about other? XYZ itself is a member. No. Thomas, a company cannot buy its own share. If it buys, it becomes a buyback. You have to cancel such shares. Getting the point? Tricky. Is it tricky? Never ever thought of this situation. No. Okay, listen carefully. In such cases, what happens? Listen carefully. Who was our parent company? Okay. ABC company will hold, say for example, how many shares there were there? 10,000 shares of XYZ. Yeah? So now what will ABC company do? The law only says this. It is not something which I am telling you. ABC company can make XYZ its wholly owned subsidiary. Sir, how? You take 9,999 shares. Sir, how about one share? One share, the company only. Which one? ABC company. You authorize one person. You authorize one person to, why sir? To hold that one share on behalf of you. So generally how this particular transaction happens, ABC company will appoint one more person as its authorized person. Yeah, so that authorized person will basically be the director of ABC company only. His name will be just written for the namesake to show two shareholders. But effectively, this person is holding this one share also on behalf of that ABC company only. They are just giving the power to hold that one share on behalf of me. Why? To make sure we are meeting the statutory requirement. So in this way, they make sure there are two shareholders. In reality, XYZ will still be called as wholly owned subsidiary only. Understood this entire scenario? Yes. So, why did I explain this? Let us go back. Now, read. all investments made or held by a company shall be made by it in its own name. You cannot invest through someone else and all, it is not valid. However, there is one exemption. What is that exemption? A company may hold any shares in its subsidiary company in the name of a nominee or nominees of the company. Why? If it is necessary to do to ensure the number of members of the subsidiary company is not reduced below the statutory limit. So, you nominate a person to hold that one security on your behalf only. It is ideally to you only. Yeah. For example, how it will be written? Say for example, now in our case, if I ask who are the shareholders of XYZ company, this is how it will be written. ABC company is a shareholder and say Mr. A as a authorized representative or nominee of ABC Limited. So basically it is for ABC Limited only. Both are ABC Limited only. Just that to facilitate the two people requirement, you can nominate one person, and though it is your property, but you can give it in his name so that you are fulfilling the statutory requirement. That is the only exception. Or else all the investments should be made only in your name. You cannot do it in any other's name. Understood this? Any doubt? Awesome. There are further more exceptions. Not that important. There are further more exceptions, not that important. Just remember, in that only one is important. I'll just tell you that. Sir, where are the other places where instead of my name as a shareholder, someone else's name is written? Sir, which are those places where instead of my name, someone else's name is written? Now assume XYZ Limited is a listed company. Yeah, if at all you want to invest in a listed company share, how will you invest? Can you go and directly invest? Is it possible? No, sir. We invest through a depository. So, whatever we discussed in depository, in the XYZ Limited's book, who is the actual shareholder? Depository's name will be written. In the depository's book, the actual shareholder ABC name is written. So this is also one of the exception where you are holding the shares. Though your name is not directly reflected, you are still the beneficial owner. I hope you guys remember this. We have done it in your share capital. Yes, you remember? So these two are the important points, and the rest are like okay. It was very long back provisions. They have just retained it. Now, if at all a company is taking loan from someone as a security, you are giving your particular share to that another person. Why? Because in lieu of loan, you have taken loan, as a security. The company has given that security to someone else. Even in such cases, you can take it in someone else's name. The other one, back then it used to happen where the companies were not directly collecting dividend or interest from whatever the other company has given. So what they used to do, they used to transfer their securities to a bank. The bank used to collect the money for this security or for this company. So back then it used to happen where we had to go and give our securities to the company. Only then they used to give dividend. Now it is not there. Now, so back then what it used to happen, you used to give your security to the bank. The bank used to go and collect the dividend on your behalf. So that was one of the exception. Or whenever you are transferring, for transferring you are giving your particular name. Instead of your name you are writing someone else's name. That is valid. These two do not actually exist in today's date. Yes, the D point, partially C, and this is important. Yes, done. Now we come to the next main part, related party transactions. Very important. Related party transactions, very important. What do you mean by related party transaction? Now listen carefully. What is related party transaction? There is a, first let us, I'll give you an example. I'll show you an illustration and then let us see what does the law say, what is the technically what does you mean by related party transaction. Now listen carefully. There is a company called ABC Limited. Yeah. There is one more company called DEF Limited. Yes. Now ABC company wanted certain contract. They wanted say certain raw material. They were looking for bids, yeah, auction. Now this bid, they wanted to give this supply of raw material, whatever this contract, they wanted to give it to DEF Limited. Who decided this? Mr. A decided. Why? Mr. A is a director of the other company also. Okay sir, so what? ABC Limited wanted some raw material. Say for example, they wanted sugarcane. Why? These people will process the sugar cane and they will manufacture sugar. Now, DEF Limited are the producers of sugar cane. Now listen carefully. ABC Limited, if at all it takes sugar cane from outsiders, for example XYZ Limited, if they take sugar cane from XYZ Limited, they would have got sugar cane at rupees 10 per sugar cane. But they took sugarcane from DEF Limited at a price of rupees 15 per sugarcane. If your question is, sir, who would do that? Why would they do? The company has a common director. If at all he gives money here, the money goes to his pocket only. From one company, they will take out the funds and they will fill the pockets. Sir, who will do this, sir? But did you guys understand this? If ABC had given this contract of giving sugarcane to XYZ, they would have got this contract at rupees 10 per sugarcane. For that matter, anyone in this industry, if they give them sugarcane, they will give it at 10 only. But ABC Limited gave this contract to DEF Limited. Indirectly, ABC Limited had more money. They had too much of money. They were moving this money from ABC Limited to DEF Limited. In fact, DEF Limited was opened by Mr. A only. He was only the shareholder also of DEF Limited. So here it is a public company, ABC Limited. Public have invested the money here. This person is paying more and getting the contract. Why? Indirectly he is diverting funds there. Now 15 rupees came here. Indirectly that extra 5 rupees goes to the shareholder's pocket. Who? Again Mr. A. Did you guys understand this or not? Did you guys understand this illustration? Yes? All of you understood this illustration? Yes? Now, sir, who will do this, sir? Why will they do, sir? Guys, recently, whatever companies you just touch, every company has done related party transactions and they have screwed up. There was a recent allegation on Indigo flights. There was a recent allegation on Jet Airways. Jet Airways did it a big time fraud. What did it do? How many of you know Jet Airways? Recently they had a big time failure. Yes, you know Jet Airways, recently they had a big thing and all. So when they probed into it, they got to know that whatever flights they have, for those flights, even which were ideally standing in the airport, they were raising invoices for petrol. They were escalating and showing the invoices. They were getting all this from one of their sister concern only. There was one of a subsidiary. From there only they used to get this petrol and all. So they used to simply show that we got petrol from this particular company, and they used to raise invoice. And here they used to eat all the money. For example, assume to maintain this flight, the cost was 10 crore. They were showing the expenses as 15 crore here, and they were raising invoices. So this company was paying 15 crores to this particular another company. Ideally, no, all that was not happening at all. Are you getting the point? Sir, who does this? To avoid this only, the company law said, whenever you are doing any transaction with a related party, I repeat, whenever you are doing a transaction with a related party, you have to take approvals. Till now no such thing used to happen. Can you see that? Is it visible? Kingfisher kept its board in dark on excess cash for F1 team. You know, Vijay Mallya had one F1 team. Do you guys know that? Vijay Mallya had one F1 Formula 1 team, for which the Kingfisher Airlines was a sponsor. Kingfisher Airlines used to give money, sponsor that Formula 1 team. After the Kingfisher Airline declined, whenever the Kingfisher said that we don't have any more money, when they probed into it, they got to know Vijay Mallya took money and he put it in that Formula 1 team. He sponsored in a very high budget, which the directors of this Kingfisher Airlines, they never knew only. So Kingfisher did not inform its board about the sponsorship agreement, despite it being a related party transaction, which is a violation of accounting standard. See here. Just look at the first paragraph. A probe by the Serious Fraud SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, has alleged that the Kingfisher Airlines Limited (KFAL) paid excess sponsorship money to FIFOTOL, that is your Force India Formula One Team Limited, a related party of UB Group, without disclosing the transaction to its lenders and board of directors of Kingfisher Airlines. So the Kingfisher company sponsored one of its Formula One team. Again, this Formula One company was Kingfisher's only. Vijay Mallya used to put money into this Formula One, which the board of directors or lenders or any person of Kingfisher were not at all aware of. The director of Kingfisher was Vijay Mallya, the Formula One director, and one of the shareholder was also Vijay Mallya. Both of the directors were the same, Vijay Mallya. Indirectly, he used to get benefit out of it. So the law said he took a lot of advantage of this related party transaction. So people only open one more company. In Kingfisher, who invested? You and me invested. Our money went and sat here now. That money is in Vijay Mallya's pocket now. Where is Vijay Mallya? Vijay Mallya is ultimately chilling in London. With whose money? With our money, which was a listed company, Kingfisher. We had invested there. They raised extra invoices. They put extra money. They gave it to the another company, which was again Vijay Mallya's. Through that company, he took out a legitimate money. Now he's aram se chilling in London. Kingfisher Airlines went into liquidation. They didn't have money only. Are you getting the point? Related party transaction, how dreadful it is. All of you getting the point? Yes? So, how people in corporates, this is called as white collar crime, guys. This is called as white collar crime. Now, imagine people who had invested, many, I had read one post. One person said, sir, I had invested my pension amount, everything, my future amount in the shares. That is my daughter's marriage amount, my pension amount, everything I had invested in Kingfisher. And today I got back only 5,000 rupees. He had invested in lakhs. Are you getting the point? So it pinches, correct? So to avoid all that, they said no more related party transaction. So see, what does the related party transaction say? Section 2 subsection 76 defines who is a related party. Who is a related party? Related party is with reference to a company. Who are related parties? With reference to a company, a director or his relative, a KMP or his relative, a firm, a director, manager or his relative, a partner, a private company, a public company in which a director or manager is a director. Sir, this is confusing. Let us simplify. Write down. With reference to a company, 2 subsection 76. Sir, for this company, who and all are the related parties? Write down. First one, who is a related party? A director or a KMP. These two people are related party to the company. You cannot have any contract with them apart from your normal contract of your employment. No other contracts you can do. Okay, sir. Sir, what if now director of Vijay Mallya? Sir, what if I I enter into a contract with Siddharth Mallya, Vijay Mallya's son? So indirectly, director or KMP or their relatives. So director of a company, KMP of a company, or their relatives are all related party to the company. Okay sir. And any firm, if I say individual, you will open a firm and you will put all the money into that partnership firm, then even a firm is a related party where director or manager or relative, they're both relative, is a partner in the firm. Meaning what? Sir, Vijay Mallya, is a partner in one of the partnership firm, or Vijay Mallya's son is a partner in one of the partnership firm. This partnership firm will only become a related party to us. A private limited company. So from our company, another private limited company will become related party when? So whatever I am writing in black, the director or manager, we are talking about the director or manager of this company. So the company in middle, if they have their director or manager and they are investing or they are becoming a partner in this firm, yes, in the same way, private limited, a director or manager or their relatives is member or a director of such private company. So now our center company's director or manager or their relatives are a member. Member means what? They are holding, it is their company. Vijay Mallya is opened one more company. Now this company, Kingfisher, Vijay Mallya's own company, another company, these two also become related parties. If they have a common director, or if it is your member, you are just a shareholder, or you are a director of that private company becomes a related party with our center company. Public company, again, a director or manager is a director plus holds with relatives more than 2% of paid up share capital. If it is a private company, if we have to treat two companies as related party, that is, if it is a private company, your director or your director's relative, if they are either a member or a director, they will become related parties. These two companies become related parties. For public company, you have to be a director plus, along with your relatives, you should hold at least 2% of paid up share capital. Only then it will be called related party. Any body corporate, the body corporate whose board of directors, managing director, manager, all these three people are controlled by, they act as per instructions or directions given by, again, our two celebrities, director or manager of our middle company. So any other body corporates, directors, managing director, manager, if your middle company's directors are controlling them, they are acting as per your conditions, then even any body corporate will become a related party company. Next one, any person, he will be a related party to us. Who? Any person on whose advice our companies, which is our company, the center company, the director or manager are accustomed to act. In the previous example, you were controlling someone. In this example, someone is controlling you. Now that someone is also a related party. However, if anyone is advising you in a professional capacity is excluded. A person advising you in professional capacity, they are excluded. Sir, what do you mean by professional capacity? Now you are a company secretary. You will be advising hundreds of directors of companies. Then will you become related party? No. You are advising in your professional capacity. That advice is not covered here. The last one, the holding company or subsidiary company or even an associate company of this company, all these people will be called as what? Related party. So in short, how are we writing? The middle company is, say for example, XYZ Limited. For this company, who and all are related parties? So another private company, say ABC Private Limited, for example, becomes a related party to XYZ Limited when the director or manager of XYZ Limited is also a director or a member of that ABC Private Limited. Now these two companies will be called as related parties. That is what is being explained in this entire circle. Whoever is written in black, whomever we have written in black, they belong to the center company. Whatever is red is their position in that another company. I hope it is clear. Yes, everyone? Important. That is the reason I am taking time here. Okay. Sir, now we saw firm, private limited, public company, body corporate, person, holding company, subsidiary company, associate company of this company, all of them are related parties. Now who are relatives? Who are relatives? The word relatives are defined in section 2 subsection 77. That is a easy definition. What? Which we have already seen also. Where? Have I ever told you what is a relative? Yes, I have told you. When? The members of Hindu undivided family, whoever are part of HUF, they are relatives. Husband and wife, relatives. And father, stepfather, mother, stepmother. Stepmother is basically that second mother, whatever comes in one's life. That is what we are talking. Son, stepson, son's wife, daughter, daughter's husband, brother, stepbrother, sister, stepsister. Yes? So, father, stepfather, mother, stepmother, son, stepson, daughter, no stepdaughter. Most of me ask why, sir? Even I don't know why this discrimination is there. Son, stepson, daughter, no stepdaughter. Son, son's wife, daughter, daughter's husband, brother, stepbrother, sister, stepsister. All these people will be considered as what? What? Relatives. Now for example, when I say relative of say Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani, person, brother. Mukesh Ambani's son. Neeta Ambani, wife. If at all Dhirubhai Ambani was alive, then Dhirubhai Ambani. Are you getting the point? Yes. Now these people also cannot hold any interest in such companies. If it is their company, we cannot do. Are you getting the point? Not only Ambani, if at all, say for example, Ambani's son is investing in another company, can our two companies do transaction? That is what this company is talking about. Yes, got understood what is related party transaction, everyone? Awesome. Now, look what does section 188 say. No company except with the consent of board of directors given by a resolution in the board meeting. Vijay Mallya did not inform the board also. He invested on his own. Without the board resolution, no company shall enter into a contract or arrangement with a related party. What is related party? We just saw. Yes? Sir, what do you mean we should not enter into a related party? The law says, see, you enter into a contract, I will not stop you. But not all transactions are considered as related party transaction. There are only few transactions which are considered as related party transaction. What is that? See here. So, these transactions you cannot do without taking board approval. Sale or purchase or supply of goods or material, property, services, appointment of agent, appointment of any person in the place of profit, underwriting of shares. Yeah? All these you cannot do without a prior board resolution. Sir, what if I want to do anything else? Look at this transaction. If at all it is falling in this, then you cannot do without taking board of directors approval. Sir, what if it is not here? Then you can do. No problem. Now what does section 188 say? You have to take board resolution when only for such related party transaction. Sir, are all related party transaction come here? No, there are only few transactions for which you need to take approval. And for certain things you need to take shareholders approval. The law just says that you have to take shareholders approval. Time and again I have told you, whenever it is just shareholders approval, that means only ordinary resolution. Whenever the law is silent, we presume it as ordinary resolution. Now, sir, what and all for transactions we have to take board approval? Now, assume XYZ company, ABC company, they want to enter into a contract. They have a common director. They have a common director. For both of them, Mr. A is the director. Now, if they have to enter into this contract, then if at all they have to enter into this contract, if this contract is falling in any of these contracts, then you have to enter into a contract only after passing board resolution. Sir, what are those contracts? I have simplified as much as possible. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. It is given in 100 places in your book, or write down properly. First one, sir, when a company wants to sell or purchase, if you want to sell or purchase what? Any goods, purchase of goods or materials, then you have to take board resolution. Okay, sir. And if you are planning to sell, buy, if you want to sell or buy what? Property, immovable properties, then you have to take board resolution. Okay, sir. And if you want to lease, what do you mean by lease? A long term contract where you go and stay in a place for a long term. If it is monthly, it is rent. If it is long term, lease. Again, lease of property only. Sir, I will not take goods, but I will take or I will give. That is availing or rendering. Availing means you taking. Rendering meaning you giving. Availing or rendering of any services. Basically, goods or materials also cannot be taken. Also, any services also cannot be taken. Or appointment to any office or place of profit. You are appointing a person where? In your office, or you are appointing him to a place of profit. Yeah, when you are appointing a person for a profit or a office, a employee or something, then you have to take a board resolution. Sixth one, if you want to appoint the other company as underwriters. Sir, what do you mean by underwriters? Whenever you go for a share subscription, few agencies will help you to give you that services of underwriting. Yeah. For all this, you have to take board resolution. Yes. So, place of profit P, underwriters U, services S, another P, another P, another P, G. Yeah. So remember, P cube, pugs. That dog, whatever it is, remember, pugs. Yeah. Okay. Sir, now what is this ordinary resolution? Law says, whenever you are entering into a contract, excuse me, you have to take board resolution. Okay, sir. Now, just like 186, up to one extent, board resolution is sufficient. Beyond one extent, you have to take shareholders' approval. What is that extent? If it is for goods or materials, 10% or more of turnover of company, of your total turnover of the company, if the contract with your related party is exceeding 10% or more, you have to take shareholders approval. Sir, what if it is 9%? Board resolution is satisfied. %10 or more of net worth. %10 or more. Turnover of company. monthly remuneration exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh, underwriting commission of 1% or more of net worth. Try to remember this table in this way, it is a little easier. If you go with your book, it might become a problem. Copied all of you? Yes. However, this related party transaction, there is an exemption. This is not applicable for transactions between holding company and its wholly owned subsidiary, provided their accounts should be consolidated. Basically whatever I told you, consolidated financial statements, preparing everything, and that financial should be placed in front of shareholders. They should be given an opportunity to see. If these two conditions are satisfied, then a transaction between holding and a wholly owned subsidiary, it is exempted. See, there are two things. One is the board resolution. One is that board resolution. The other one is this ordinary resolution. If at all any company is entering into a contract, with a related party. Now the question is, if at all, say XYZ company, it is entering into a contract with a related party. Now the question is whether that contract, does it fall under section 188? Yes, no. If at all it falls under section 188, you have to take board approval. Sir, what if it does not fall under 188? No, then board approval is not required. Board resolution is not required. Okay, sir. Now, board approval is required. Now, the next question. Is it within the limit or is it exceeding the limit? If it is within the limit, what limit? The 10%. If it is within the limit, then shareholders approval not required. Sir, if at all it is exceeding the limits, that 10% of turnover, 10% of net worth of the company, the contract which you are entering into, the value of that contract. Now for example, assume let us take one case. Say goods or materials, you want to buy certain goods from your related party, just like whatever we saw, sugarcane. Your total turnover of the company is, say for example, 100 crore. You are placing an order with them for 10 crore or more, 10% of your total turnover. If you are placing an order for any goods or materials, then you have to take, if it is within the limit, no approval. If it is exceeding the limit, you have to take ordinary resolution. It is shareholders approval. Keep this chart, might help you. Understood? Awesome. All of you understood. Things went inside. Awesome. Go for a quick break.